PKULife.tv is brought to you by PKU Perspectives.
Hey everyone, this is Kevin Alexander with PKULife.tv, and today I'm with my dietitian, Kia Crivelli from Tulane University Medical Center. Kia, your clinic, or the clinic at Tulane, sees patients from a variety of backgrounds and experiences. Are there certain characteristics you've seen with certain patients and families that maybe take, the most benefit out of the clinic relationship?
Yes, definitely. And so there are three characteristics that we really see that are really helpful for families and patients to have. One is communication skills. And so when the family and when patients can have really good communication with their clinic and with their dietitian, things work really smoothly, and we're just able to relay information really well and keep the family and clinic connection going. The second thing is good organization skills. Families and patients that keep calendars and journals and track everything that they eat and that they do and set reminders for themselves do really, really well. The third thing is being a good advocate for either yourself if you're a patient or for your child as a parent. You're going to be the best advocate for yourself.
And, I've connected with a variety of PKUers on Facebook and social media, and, people have a variety of different experiences with the clinics. And for some, their experience, at least from their perspective, may not have been as positive as they would have preferred. I'm not trying to minimize the reality of that, but do you think there's anything that they might benefit from knowing, like from your perspective as a dietitian? Is there something you'd like to say to them to help them perhaps understand the other side of the equation, so when there's maybe some of those kind of breakdowns in communications?
Yes. So I think a lot of times we as dietitians come across like people's mother. I think we're nagging a lot and we're reminding a lot. And I think sometimes that can be frustrating for people, especially for adults, because they don't want their mother telling them what to do. But just remember that your dietitian in your clinic really cares about you, and that's why they're doing that. They want the best for you, and that sometimes we need to nag and remind you to, help you do the best job you can.
I think it's also worth pointing out here that because you see a variety of different people, the sad truth is that sometimes you see people and you encounter people who simply don't follow instructions, don't follow advice, and so you do see the consequences of that. So is that perhaps a little bit of the reason why maybe y'all are so proactive?
Yes, definitely. And so unfortunately, we do see sometimes the worst case scenarios and what can happen when someone doesn't follow their diet or come to clinic regularly. So it's because, we worry about you, and, we want the best. Yeah.
Now, there was a paper that was published last year by the National PKU Alliance, and if you're watching this and you haven't read this paper, I highly recommend you go to the National PKU Alliance's website. It's www.npkua.org. In addition to this paper, they have a lot of great resources on there, some great materials for you to read through as far as some tips and advice on how to manage your daily PKU lifestyle and how to transition into adulthood and various different things. But in this particular paper, they were talking about care in the United States, and this statistic is in the United States. Please keep that in mind if you're watching this from another part of the world. But in the United States, 70% of adults with PKU are not receiving treatment. And they define that as whether they're not receiving formula, or they're not going to clinic, or they're not following a diet. Just, a broad category, 70% of adults are not receiving treatment. And, for some that may have happened for a variety of uncontrollable reasons. Who knows what the reason actually is. However, we all know how important it is for them to try to make an effort to get back in touch with the clinic and try to get back in touch with treatment. So when you're dealing with someone who is starting from ground zero, who knows that they're not healthy, but they want to get better, and they feel just very, very overwhelmed at all of the possibilities moving forward, what do you recommend to them just to get started?
So definitely call your clinic. Definitely just make a clinic appointment. We can help just with little steps getting back on track. And it's not that you have to do it all at once. And that's one thing we really emphasize with patients is let's just do one small thing. Maybe it's eating a little bit less protein and that's it. I won't make you try formula, but maybe it'll be just one little thing. And once you can do that one little thing, for a week or two, maybe we can add in one additional thing for you to try. But just talk with your dietitian, talk with your clinic, because they're really willing to work with you. And there are a lot of new resources out there for patients, especially for some patients that come back to clinic and we haven't seen for 10 years. There's a whole bunch of new formulas, new foods, new treatments that maybe they've never heard of, and they could really help their whole treatment.
Now, I've mentioned before on Facebook that although I've never gone completely off diet, I actually did fall into that category for about 10 years that I wasn't in communication with the clinic. Just as a quick background, I grew up in the 1980s, and during that time, my family was told that, at least in my condition or situation, because I had a higher tolerance for Phi, that maybe when I became an adult, maybe I'd be able to go off diet. So I grew up with that in my mind, and then when I became a teenager, I stopped going to clinic as much as I had used to, and eventually just stopped. And I also stopped drinking formula. Still ate low protein food, still ate a basic vegetarian diet, which was okay for me, but was not following it very closely, and was out of communication with the clinic for about 10 years. And so after about 10 years, I came back to the clinic at Tulane, and by that time, they had the new phrase was diet for life. And I know that this is a phrase that many people with the PK community have heard of. I've actually communicated with some who have their questions about it, so I do want to ask you about diet for life and why it's such an important concept.
Yes, so it's definitely that's the rule of treatment now, is diet for life for PKU. And the reason this is so important is that our brains never stop developing and growing. So it used to be the thought, and partially, this is partially true, that your brain and your skull stops growing at a certain age, but what's going on inside your brain never stops. It never stops developing and learning new materials. And so the most important thing is, diet for life, because keeping your Phi levels in good control protects your brain and protects your IQ.
Last question for you. This is more of a personal question. It's kind of a loaded one. Why do you do this? Why did you become a dietitian, and why do you keep doing this?
So I originally came into this job because it was really interesting. It was something that I'd honestly never really heard about. It's kind of, as far as dietitians go, it's kind of a secret field. But once you get into it, people never leave, because it's such a rewarding job. Originally, I was so interested because it's one of the only jobs as a dietitian where you have the continuity of care with your patients for their whole lives. There's no other job where you get your patient when they're an infant and you keep them for their entire life. That part's amazing to me. And after being in this job, the most amazing thing is being able to help a parent of a newly diagnosed baby with PKU, and just to calm their fears and to tell them it's going to be okay. Another thing, seeing a child that's 5 years old with PKU read you a story. That's amazing. And seeing an adult that comes back to clinic that hasn't, been able to drink formula, and you've finally been able to show them a formula that they like or can tolerate. Just helping patients that way, and seeing, their gratitude is the most rewarding.
Well, thank you for taking time to talk with me today. And thank you for watching. And again, I highly recommend, please go to my website. I have a lot of other resources on the website, a lot of other videos and some blogs and other things that I've written. Please leave me a comment, or a comment, story idea. You can email me. Also, don't forget to connect with me on Facebook if you're not, facebook.com/PKULife.tv. And I'm also on Twitter, PKULife, @PKULife.tv. See you next time.